Hello everyone, I'm Rob Browne, President and CEO of Youth Reach International. Tonight, I'll be your MC. And on behalf of our staff, our board of directors, the mentors, and the orphans around the world that we serve, I'd like to welcome you to the Love Train. Tonight, you're going to hear about the plight of orphans around the world. But it's also about you. Tonight, I hope to bring you some inspiration and some hope, and we could all use a lot of that. Now, many of you watching tonight are old friends, but we know that there's many of you here that are new to Youth Reach International, and we are thankful that all of you have chosen to be with us. Now, please join my friend and Youth Reach International board member Stephen Nutt as he shares a little bit about how Youth Reach International got started.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Youth Reach International began in the early 1990s in the nation of Ukraine. The pressing need at the time was to fill a gap, both morally and ethically, educating youth following the fall of communism. Thousands of young people during that first decade were taught, challenged, and changed by a summer camp program that touched children from all over that great nation. The model used early on to impact young people was highly successful, and our ministry spread to Russia, to Belarus, and to 4 continents. As realities of societal and familial brokenness became drastic and clear, a decision was made in 2009 to focus our full attention on orphaned and at-risk youth in the nations that we serve. Their reality was too dire for us to be anything but wholly committed to their cause. The task was daunting. Institutional care has never been an ideal option, yet nearly all orphans are sentenced to life in an institution instead of a family. Orphanages may provide minimal clothing, nutrition, medical, and educational help, but it doesn't speak to deeper issues. Who loves me? Why am I here? What's my future look like? Helping orphans answer these questions became our mission and our focus. Youth Reach International saw early on that the missing but attainable part of the puzzle on helping orphans was mentoring. So we began recruiting and training local mentors from the communities in which we are invested to be the first responders in the lives of orphans. Local mentors today are the backbone of our work in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and in South Africa. Mentors are our heroes, but mentors are normal people. They're university students, they're stay-at-home moms, they're business people, artists, athletes, even former orphans. These mentors guide, train, model, listen, encourage, redirect, and journey alongside the orphans of their nation. As the mentoring movement took hold and grew, our next challenge became mobilizing families instead of institutions as the ideal place to take care of a child. Families that mentor, families that foster, families that adopt are the keys to bringing the best care to an orphan. So now we advocate, recruit, train, and provide encouragement for families in our host nations to step forward and welcome an orphan into their family. As a result of the 3 decades, Youth Reach International is uniquely poised to save tens of thousands of orphans from addiction, from trafficking, from hopelessness and death. To that end, our mission today is to partner with donors, volunteers, and churches to establish local mentoring communities which equip vulnerable youth for success in life through spiritual development, positive role models, and practical life skills. On behalf of the board of directors, I thank you for caring about orphans. I thank you for joining us on this mission, and I thank you for being here tonight.
In the United States, if a child is neglected, abused, or abandoned, we have a social system of foster care and adoption to care for that child. And while this system is not perfect, it works relatively well, and it works much better than it does in other places in the world. Foster care and adoption are almost completely absent. Group homes are the norm, and they are severely lacking. Children often have to share bars of soap and toothbrushes if they have them at all. Food and clothing is often lacking. They are lucky to even get an elementary education. They are forced out of the orphanage as teenagers with no education, no life, or relationship skills. Worst of all, they have no support and no relationships. Perhaps the most heart-wrenching is the lack of human connection and love. All of this leads to addiction, prostitution, and early pregnancy, creating a revolving door of more and more children unable to be cared for by a parent, a revolving door at group homes. And orphans are prime targets of human traffickers. These traffickers promise them a warm place to sleep, food to eat, and then trick them into believing they'll be loved. Many of those trafficked end up right here in the United States, sold as prostitutes or abused as laborers. The life expectancy of orphans outside the United States is just 30 years, if left on their own 30 years. The COVID pandemic has made things worse, especially in Africa, where food shortages have been devastating. But Youth Reach International has partnered with good, competent, caring people in Belarus, Russia, Lebanon, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. With the support of donors here in America, we help provide the physical necessities for orphans, street kids, and young adults who've aged out of orphanages to have a chance in life. But just as importantly, those partners provide human connection, love, spiritual guidance, and practical life skills. And now, my friends, these kids are thriving. And that's good for Americans. A lack of education, job training, and extreme poverty puts everyone at risk. When children are denied basic necessities like education, life skills training, and care from adults, most of all hope, it can become a breeding ground for political unrest, war, terrorism, human trafficking, and global pandemics. Those are problems that endanger all of us. And that, my friends, is why the ministry of Youth Reach International is so very important. Stella is the oldest of 4 children born to her mother in Choma, Zambia. Shortly after the birth of her youngest sister, her parents separated from each other. Trauma followed next in her young life. She was alone, and she was afraid. Years of this way of living set into motion many challenges and obstacles that were part of her everyday existence. Being raised only by her mother, life was hard for Stella. Education was a far-off hope due to no resources or guidance to get her in and then keep her in school. During one short season of her life when she was able to attend school, she remembers being taken out of class at a young age and shamed for not having enough money to pay her education fees. After the shaming, she was sent away and told not to come back unless she had money to pay for her education. More obstacles, more hopelessness, and more trauma. But all of this changed when a mentor and his family stepped into her life. The Chikonga family provided an example of what could be. Stella now had guides to share life with. She had people to fill in some of the space that coming from a broken home had created. Suddenly, Stella envisioned a better future because of the presence of a loving mentor family in her life. The results since that happened speak for themselves. Stella is now reunited with her mother, who has since remarried and is trying hard to do right by her family. Stella is studying in school. She is making good grades and was recently elected president of her class. She helps in their home by washing clothes and dishes. She prepares food, and she assists with her younger siblings. In fact, Stella has a plan to graduate from school and then college, and then work to help provide money for her younger siblings to finish school, go to college, and achieve the same level of success that Stella has. The difference in Stella's life is found within the gap Youth Reach International works to fill, providing a mentor, a true friend, a faithful guide, an everlasting hope, and a grateful, forever changed life. Friends, donors are the lifeblood at Youth Reach International. In fact, we're fond of saying that donors are the heroes that change the world. I'd like to introduce you to one of those heroes right now. For more than 3 decades, Ken Bowes and his family have been a friend to me and to the ministry of Youth Reach International. Please listen to Ken as he shares about the connection that he enjoys with our ministry.
The motivation for us to give to your program has been built over a long, long period of time. I think we've known each other for something like 35 years now. So the history is certainly a big part of that. But another part of it is the fact that when it comes to building trust for any any entity you're giving your money to. The history that you have shared with us over the years of successes is equally, not equally balanced, but balanced because of your openness when you're running up against difficulties, or you've got a difficult program in a specific country. The fact that you're very open about all of that, and we all take great delight when you've overcome those difficulties. Many years ago, Rob, you had a big banquet, a big meeting, and at that time, givers were able to take a personal interest in an individual orphan, and we had undertaken sponsorship of a young girl. It brought it home to us on a very personal level. It was a rewarding evening, and to meet and chat with her and learn of her progress was just a very, very, very rewarding experience. What we get out of giving from a personal standpoint, I think, is based on some history that you might find interesting. Many years ago, when I was doing my taxes and I met with our tax accountant, he was reviewing everything, and he just made an observation. He said, "If you don't mind, I'd just like to make an observation and take it for what it's worth." And I said, "Well, I'd be interested in hearing that." And he said, you're giving a lot of money to a lot of charities. Not a lot to each charity, but in total, a lot. And he said, many people get much more reward from their giving by focusing on a much smaller number. And that kind of struck home when Patty and I talked about it. And so we narrowed down 4 outside of our church, 2 churches that we belong to, one here and one in Florida. Outside of the 2 churches, we narrowed it down to 4 charities that we felt most strongly about, and felt that we could make a great contribution, a bigger contribution to these 4. And that's what we did. And obviously Youth Reach is one of those 4. And it helps you feel a much more a part of, and you take equity, or you feel that you're a more important entity within the organization. Not important, but you have a much more reflective understanding of what programs are when you make that investment in it. So that's been our strategy, and we're so glad we did, because it's taken me a long time to develop the true understanding of it's more blessed to give than to receive, and I certainly feel that way after many, many years of not fully understanding the meaning of that. So we love Youth Reach. The long-term future of Youth Reach is certainly, and I can understand your concern, is certainly of concern, because you've got sweat equity in that. You've devoted your life to it, and you don't want to see it die out when you pass on. So I think the thought of institutionalizing the program and setting up a process and procedures to assure that it's going to continue after you are gone is very wise, and I look forward to hearing more about that.
As you can tell, my friend Ken Bowes and his family has a very deep connection to this ministry. Thank you, Ken, and thank you to your family for your generosity. Obviously, I have a deep connection to this ministry too. Countless are the stories that come to mind when I think about the impact we've had over the last 20 plus years. There is one specific situation that happens almost every year that really touches my heart in a unique sort of way. As you've heard, and as you will hear, summer camps are a part of what we do in our ministry in order to establish and to deepen relationships between mentors and orphans. Going to camp every summer is a thrill for kids here in the U.S. For kids in a lot of our countries, it's a means of escape. They get out of the institution. They get to break out of the monotonous routine of day after day living in a place that is sometimes cold and oftentimes harsh. Camp is something that is looked forward to. But for many orphans, their entire summer is made up of going from one camp to another. In most of these camps, they're kind of just tolerated. They're not part of the general camp population. Definitely on Parents' Day, no one comes to visit them. They have different clothes than everyone else. They use different language than everyone else. They've had vastly different experiences than every other child that's in that camp. So for some of these kids, moving from camp to camp every summer is not quite the joyful experience that one would think it would be. I'm reminded a number of years ago of a specific group of kids from a specific orphanage that rolled up in their orphanage bus. While other kids came to camp in their parents' SUVs or sports cars, these kids rolled up in an orphanage bus. And I remember looking through the window and seeing their tired faces, knowing that they had just come from another camp. As they pulled up, there wasn't exactly a great sense of anticipation on their faces about what was ahead. This was a new orphanage that we were working with. These were some new kids that we had never met before. Camp was the starting place for them in our mentoring program. They had no idea what was ahead of them. As their caretaker opened the sliding door and the kids got out, I remember them carrying all of their belongings for that week in a simple plastic bag. I remember them having less and less quality than any other kid that was at that camp of the things that they did have. And I remember them looking very much fearful and made aware again that they were in yet another place where they didn't fit, where they didn't belong. Well, at our camps, everybody fits and everybody belongs. And very quickly, our mentors and our Americans moved out to welcome them with the high fives and the hugs and really just the smiles that they don't very often get to see. By the end of those first few hours at camp, you really couldn't tell who were the orphans and who were the home kids. You couldn't really tell who were the people that were visitors to that country and who were the people that lived there all the time. Camp is a great equalizer, because at camp, we're all one family. And as those 2 weeks unfolded, those orphans experienced something that they'd never experienced before. They experienced being loved and cared for and even disciplined with dignity, with honor, with respect, and with their best long-term good in mind. Yes, even the way we had to discipline kids when they would miss curfew or be late for a class or break a camp rule showed them that we valued them, even though we were concerned about their behavior. The play that we did together, the creative exercises that we did together, the sports that we did together, the videos that we made together, the games that we played, all of this created an atmosphere that let these young people know, these young orphans know, that they are valued, that they are cared for. And you better believe nearly 2 weeks later, when that orphanage bus pulled up at the front gates of that camp and we walked those kids out with the things that they had made during camp and the gifts that they had received and put them back on that bus to go to the next camp, you better believe that they had been changed forever. The tears showed us that. Even the director of the orphanage had to comment to us that her kids looked different after being at our camp. But I specifically remember one or two of the older kids taking the time to stop and talk to me and some of the leaders there and to say, we've never been loved like this before. What we experienced here makes going to the next camp a lot harder. But thank you for allowing us to be here. And thank you that you've made it clear that after summer camp season is over, you're going to come visit us in the orphanage. You're going to come and celebrate our birthdays with us. You're going to come and continue to build relationships with us. As those years unfolded after that initial summer camp, great are the things that we have seen done in those young people's lives. We've seen them finish school. We've seen them move on into trade schools, some of them even into colleges and universities. And one of the most exciting things that we've seen is those orphans turn around and become mentors to the next generation of orphans that are behind them. Before you watch this next video, let me say just a word about this young man. He came to us in a tough situation. Raised by a mother who was an alcoholic, he has a younger sister who suffers from fetal alcohol syndrome. But Nikita knew that he could be part of a better future for other kids, even though he wasn't too sure about his own future. Nikita stepped into the role of being mentored by some of our most mature and gifted leaders. And after not a lot amount of time, Nikita stepped forward and said, I want to pass on to some of the younger orphans that we're working with some of the things that I've received. In a very meaningful way, in a very lasting way, Nikita not only received the impact of mentors in his life, he gave the impact of being a mentor in a young child's life. Nikita kind of represents the full circle of what we're trying to see done in our ministry. I hope you'll enjoy his story in this video.
У вас все лето по расписанию.
I started to understand God better through stories that were told through scripture. I had a lot of questions about the stories, who the people were in the stories, and who were the people that followed Jesus. In the past, when I talked to believers, I would start arguing. I was inclined towards disbelief. I had seen a lot of programs on TV that would discredit Jesus and discredit the faith, but I still was at a gray area where I wasn't sure, and talking to Alex kind of pushed me towards believing, because with every answered question, I felt like I could believe stronger. When I asked a question, I receive an answer, an explanation, and sometimes even 5 answers. The answer satisfied me, and I liked it. Many others, like basically the whole team, supported me and mainly believed in me. And I realized that they really believe in me, and that's how I came to Jesus. We have a kid named Alyosha. He was just a usual kid, maybe even a little bit closed down. I looked at him like I look at all the other children. And then I realized that he can be something more. I saw that he could have faith. I think that he has been in camps like this before, and he's also undecided, sort of in a gray area. We started having our daily activities, and he started asking questions, and he started opening up and trusting, and our conversations became more open. Of course, I did not push him to believe. I did not try to make him believe, but I just communicated with him, spent some time with him, and I saw a light in him. And 3 or 4 days before leaving, he prayed before lunch. And he said, well, I'm just not sure what to say. And we said, just thank God. And he prayed, and it was very joyful. He's a good kid.
As you might guess, we've got some big plans for the future, expanding our capacity to be able to reach more orphans. Specifically, we need more mentors. At the heart of the Youth Reach International ministry plan is the presence of loving, caring mentors that speak the same language as these kids, that live in the same communities that they do, and that are committed to them not just during a couple of weeks in the summer, but the rest of the year, year after year. So as we have more mentors, we have more impact. We also envision growing a program that is in great need right now, and that is trafficking awareness and prevention. Many of us here in the U.S. have had our eyes open the last 5 or 10 years to the immense problem trafficking is, not just worldwide, but in our own country and in many of our own city. Our desire is to equip orphan mentors to see the signs of trafficking, to see what grooming looks like, and to step in and to help these orphans make wise decisions and develop survival skills on their own so that they are not taken advantage of. We also realize that during the last 6-7 months, COVID has wreaked havoc in the countries in which we work. Entire systems have either come to a stop or are now gone forever. And when COVID wasn't the enemy, an explosion like happened in Beirut, Lebanon on August the 4th of this year created more havoc, more hopelessness, and more destruction, maybe even than COVID did. Infrastructure is suffering in many of the countries in which we work. We need places for orphans to belong, to feel safe, to receive training, and to receive care. And finally, as I said earlier, we believe camps are a very special place for us to establish relationships with orphans and then help mentors deepen relationships with orphans. To that end, we are committed to growing our camp program. And to that end, we are committed to creating a safe place for orphans to belong, to be connected to a mentor, to establish relationships, and to have those relationships deepened in a safe, fun, wholesome environment. Our camp project is a big part of a big future for Youth Reach International. So this big future that Youth Reach International is looking forward to includes some significant growth here in the U.S. as well. In order for us to add capacity overseas, we've got to add capacity here as well. And that's something we're really excited about. Back to the initiatives overseas though, in Zambia, we're going to continue to develop our Life Skills Training Center. Investment and infrastructure there will allow us to continue to teach woodworking and furniture making to older orphans. We also want to add in a tailoring program, automotive mechanics, and agricultural projects as well. In Eastern Europe, the need is always going to be great for safe places in which we can hold meetings for orphans and for mentors. Obviously, in Eastern Europe, for most of the year, meeting under a tree or out in the street is not an option. So safe, warm, secure mentoring centers are a main part of our goal for growth in Russia, in Ukraine, and in Belarus. Back in Africa and Zimbabwe, our opportunities are many for the future. One specific initiative we're really excited about is to dig wells and put water in each one of the towns and communities in which we have mentoring movements established. Doing this will be good news to that community on behalf of the mentors and the orphans in that community. We also envision mentoring centers being a very important part of life and work in Zimbabwe as well. And also in the country of Lebanon and the city of Beirut, our Code Brave project, in which we partner with a number of other organizations there in Beirut and from around the world, teaches computer programming to orphans, to street kids, and to at-risk youth. This program has taken off over the last year, with co-op opportunities leading to job placement. This program recently received a very kind donation through Youth Reach International for 20 brand new cell phones, which can be used now that their training center was destroyed by the explosion. These cell phones can be used for distance learning with a pilot group of 20 young street children that have been chosen and that are showing ability and desire to grow in coding. This is one of those life skills opportunities that literally delivers an orphan from a place of hopelessness to a concrete place of hope. Another thing we're really excited about, which you heard our friend Ken Bowes talk about earlier, is our succession program. It's important to us at Youth Reach International to know that this movement will continue on far beyond my time in the ministry or even my time on earth. We know we're not going to conquer and defeat the problem of orphans and street kids and at-risk youth in our lifetime. We're going to sure try, but we know that these problems are going to be with us for quite some time. So preparing Youth Reach International to be a ministry, to be an organization, a charity that is built for the long haul is very important to us. Amid all of the challenges of this year with COVID and explosions and political unrest in most of our countries, we were very blessed this year to begin our succession fund here in the U.S. A very kind donation made possible for us the hope, the belief, and now the plan to have impact into generations to come. That's another part of a big future, a future even beyond us that we're excited about. If you're like me, you've probably heard it said that hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a plan. But hope is important. Hope is important in the lives of the orphans that we serve. Hope is important in the lives of the mentors who serve those orphans. And hope is important to us so that we don't grow weary in the good things that we're doing. Hope, together with passion, together with training, together with strategy, together with vision, has us poised to move into greater things in the future than even seemed possible a short time ago. We've also heard it said that with the right people in place, anything is possible. I cannot stress enough, my friends, how worthy of our support, our encouragement, our empowerment, our national leaders are in the countries in which we work. To a person, I have heard these leaders communicate to me that they are going to do this work. The question is, will they do it alone or will they do it with our help? Our belief is that we can help these good people doing good work to become even greater leaders doing greater work. That's the role of Youth Reach International. And that is what we hope you'll get excited about as we move forward tonight, tomorrow, and here at the end of the year and in the year 2021 to come. Okay, we promised you tonight some inspiration and some hope. I hope you have been inspired and moved. I know I have. And that's important because these kids need us now more than ever. Many of you who have joined us tonight are already an integral part of bringing hope to orphans around the world. Your time, your talents, your concern, your prayers, your generosity have made a lasting difference already in this world. And for that, we thank you. And for those of you who are new to Youth Reach International, maybe this is the first time you've heard about or thought about these things. We thank you tonight for spending the time with us that you have and considering the things that you have heard. If you RSVP'd in time for this event, you've already received a printed copy of our case for support in the mail. You probably got a bag of popcorn too. I hope you've enjoyed that tonight or will enjoy it very soon. Even if you didn't receive the printed copy of our case for support, you have received an email with a PDF version of this. As you consider that case for support, I ask you to do just two things. First of all, take the time to read it. Learn more about Youth Reach International, but learn more about the orphans that we serve. Learn more about what a hope-filled future looks like for them and what a hopeless future could mean for them without your help. And the second thing we'd like to ask of you is simply this. Should we call you tomorrow or in the next 2 or 3 days? Please take the time to answer our call. We simply want to get to know you better. The very fact that you've joined us tonight means that you care about the orphans of the world. We want to hear what your concerns are. We want to understand your goals, and we want to see how we can work together with you to accomplish those goals. And please know, there's not going to be any heavy-handed or slick salesmanship going on. Simply put, we want to take what we've experienced tonight and build on it together as we get to know each other better and as we envision a better future for orphans around the world. Well, that's about it for tonight. Thank you for being with us. One more thing though. If you would like to hang around and talk, I'm going to be available for as long as people want to chat tonight in the chat screen here on our YouTube channel. If you are watching this on a smart TV, you can't access the chat window that way. You'll need to get your phone or an iPad or a tablet or a notebook computer or a desktop computer of some sort in order to be able to access the chat function. But I know some of you might have questions. I know some of you might want to set up a time to talk. I know some of you might know people that you think we need to meet. Well, this is the end of our time together face-to-face tonight, but I'll be in that chat session again for as long as anybody wants to talk tonight, answering questions and helping us build for a better future. Thank you again, all of you, for being here tonight. And please, in this tenuous and challenging season that we're in, please be safe.